Hi everyone, I'm just doing a little intro now. We had a panel discussion at 2 o'clock today, and unfortunately a few of you were unable to be there for various reasons. Some of you have part-time jobs, some of you are in the middle of your leaving cert, some of you were just out doing things. So I am making this talk available. It's kind of unedited and perhaps a little bit rough, but I think it'll be nice for you to be able to look over, and there's still time to watch the films. So go for it. Okay, take care, bye.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so I'd just like to welcome you all to this live film panel discussion, which is part of Cruinniú 2021. And I'd like to welcome our panel members, Sean Ray, Cian O'Connor, Oisín Urwin, Barnard Casey, and Kerry Fitzgerald. Just one more person, sorry. I'm doing admin as well as intros. And I'd also like to thank Kerry County Council and Creative Ireland. And I'd like to say a big thanks to Eve Collins, Kerry International Film Festival programmer, for selecting this really cool short film program. And so I'm going to just explain briefly that the talk is going to last about an hour. And young participants, you're welcome to have your cameras off, which most of you do. And it's probably, a better idea to mute your mics for the duration. There's going to be an opportunity to contribute at the end. And if you would like to add comments in the comment, in the chat during the discussion, you're welcome to do that, and I'll kind of get around to them if I can. So yeah, I've already said the event's being recorded. So I'm going to ask, I think, everybody just to do a quick intro, if that's okay. Just say your name maybe and kind of what you do. Sean, will we start with you?
Great, that would be wonderful. Hi everyone, I'm Sean. I graduated from IT Tralee doing a film type course in 2018, a degree in interactive media. I've worked with Mieke on collaborations, and I've made some short films. I've worked for Dingle Animation Film Festival for about 3 years, and for the last couple of years I've been doing film editing for Dingle Animation Festival. That's it, really.
Great, Sean, thanks. I think Kerry is next. So thanks, Kerry.
Hello, hiya. I'm Kerry Fitzgerald. I'm an actor and a writer and theatre director and producer. My mum is from Kerry, and I've lived between Kerry and London, and I'm based in London at the minute. I trained up at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in North London, and last year was considering moving back to Kerry, which is how I got in touch with you, isn't it, Mieke?
That's right, yeah.
Here I am.
Great, thank you. It's nice to have someone from far afield, which makes Zoom seem all the more worthwhile. Great. Cian?
Hi everyone, my name is Cian O'Connor. I'm a writer and director based in Dingle, County Kerry, and I'm a graduate of the National Film School IDT, and I've made a couple shorts, and I'm continuing to work on my craft and hopefully make some good films that you might enjoy.
Thanks, Cian. And Oisín, you're next up.
Yeah, hi, my name is Oisín. I recently just finished a degree in creative digital media in Dublin, in Tala, in where you would do just a range of media-based stuff, practical and in theory. So a lot of that over the past few years, and through COVID, and through that I made a couple short films, and I'm just kind of always out taking photos. So at the moment I have just kind of wrapped all that up, and I'm getting my head around all that, and living in Galway with my friend who did the course also. So we're kind of currently going to be working away normally, but building up our portfolios so in the future we can engage ourselves more, basically.
That's great, Oisín. An exciting time for you. Yeah. And
yeah, it's a big move.
Yeah, it is. It's Oh, I can hear myself on feedback there. Bernard, are you you okay to do it?
Yeah, I'm still with you.
You don't really need an intro, but
No, that is all. There's going to be plenty. It's kind of a comedy is subjective, so you just don't know. My name is Barnard Casey. I'm a stand-up comedian and actor from Portmagee village down in South Kerry. I've been performing stand-up comedy for over 10 years, and I've been, I suppose, I qualified in acting from the Gaiety School of Acting in 2015. So I just continued that, and I've just since then, I've just been making online sketches for social media primarily, and I love short film. I love film in general, and always trying to work towards getting into them, trying to get that role, trying to keep improving and etc. And whilst also kind of concentrating on comedy, which would be my I suppose my main genre. But yeah, that's long and short of it for me.
that's brilliant. Thanks. Great. So I think, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to start off with the First Fear was I think it was the first film in the program. I think we've all watched them maybe in a different sequence, but I'd like to hear what everyone thought about each film, and we can just go through them individually. I know which one stood out for me. I'd be interested to hear that as well from everyone. Okay. I have my notes here. So yeah, it's set in an asbestos factory, and two teenagers reluctantly execute a task they've both been dreading. I thought it was really reminiscent of a Scandi drama when I saw the opening shot, and I didn't know what to expect. And I thought the cinematography was amazing, and a simple storyline, and I don't know, it definitely had kind of made me think there could be more. I wanted to see more. I don't know what any of you thought about it. Anyone, any ideas?
I agree that the cinematography was really interesting. I thought it really stood out, and the framing, and it's kind of interesting watching it with the others. It didn't look as rural in a lot of ways. It looked more industrial, and it was just quite an interesting perspective on an Irish film that felt there was an imposition of this kind of concrete on top of all the green. And yeah, I thought the cinematography was really, really beautiful. But I would have loved to have had a bit more kind of, I want to see more of what's going on with them both before they get there and when they go, where they go to.
Yeah, that's the thing with short films, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to agree with that. I really like that point you made in relation to the concrete in front of the rural, because I think all the films kind of showed, well, like 4x4 as well. They showed the kind of it's not the traditional just, oh look, here's some animals and some land. This is Ireland. Look at the lovely landscape. They showed a different landscape, like the quarry in 4x4. Like you don't see them. They're magnificent features that you never really see. Those big lakes and as you said, like a lot of parts of rural Ireland are also quite industrial as well. There's lots of co-ops. There's lots of, there are quarries. There are different types of things, and it's good to see that different style of the rural. Which I have a strong kind of strong connection to being from rural Ireland. But it's nice to see that that different perception of it.
I think it kind of is a good example, and Bernard, you might know it as well, of kind of a good kind of micro short that sets up a storyline and kind of does a nice bait and switch at the end to kind of lead us into the punchline. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think it's a good example for whoever, I assume the people here will have watched it. I think it's a really good example of that kind of story where you expect it to be something completely different. You kind of think it's going to be a horror film, and then you kind of get that switch, as I said, and it ends up being a nice ending. But I would have, I feel like they should have. Personally, now my first kiss was horrible. I think they should have continued with the horror element of that kind of first kiss, and maybe make it, make the saliva come out of their mouths at the end. Maybe that's what I would have done, but maybe it wouldn't have been as nice, really.
Yeah, and generally the location of a first kiss is in the turnstiles of a GA pitch or something like that. Like so.
Oh yeah, I was the same.
What stood out for me, I thought, was the sound design, especially at the beginning. Like, it was so jarring and everything when you think something terrible and dramatic is going to happen. I did like the split screen. They did it twice in it, where they're both looking at each other. Well, she's walking toward him first, but it's only a pillar, but it looks like two completely different shots. Beautifully done. It's real reminiscent of Brian De Palma in Carrie, when Carrie is talking and the guys behind her laughing, and they needed two cameras because they couldn't get, that zoom on both at the same time, so they had to split the screen. So to actually do it live was really beautifully done, I thought. And then when the two faced each other, and you still had that divide between them before they came together, it was masterful for a little film like that, for a little microfilm, as you said. Really like that.
Yeah, it was masterful. It's nice how Bernard led on into 4x4. I think maybe we should, move on and discuss that one. Again, like Bernard said, rural Ireland, which I think we can all identify with. I thought that was a stunning film. Again, a female film director as well. And I particularly thought that the two girls were amazing actresses, or actors, as I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was just so natural. And the symbolic feeding bag for me was really good, because I spend a lot of time with those things on the farm, and it kind of represented the difficulty they were going through somehow. The symbolism in the film was really great, I thought. Be interested to hear some thoughts on that one as well. For me, that one was my favorite, personally.
For me as well, it probably was as well, personally. Sorry to be jumping in here, but just cautious of time, sorry, no. But it definitely was for me as well, because it kind of reminded me a little bit of Pilgrim Hill by George Barrett, that kind of landscape shots, but it wasn't the kind of obvious. I don't know, I just love the colour of it, the way they captured it. But I think the whole aspect of females and working in farms as well, and that was captured quite well. It's kind of I know there's a guys on TikTok now, the Kerry Cowboy. He's on TikTok. He does a lot of work towards promoting, like his sister works in farms and things like that. So I know that's it's a kind of a popular theme at the moment that they really captured well,
I don't know. I thought that the economy in it, the fact that there were just two actors, but I kept thinking about other people during it as well. I thought, that even though they weren't in it, I felt there was a presence of a mother and a father. I thought that was quite amazing how the director managed to bring that across. There was a massive story behind the whole thing, which again, the limitations of the short film.
Reminded me of Russell T Davies. He writes Doctor Who, massive Doctor Who fanatic, but he does that all the time. He'll have a scene with two people, and out of nowhere, one will say, "That's why we didn't kill him." It'll be a completely throwaway line, but it leads to so many ideas and imaginations. What I loved about that as well was, I kept thinking, is this storyboarded, like the cinematography? Evan Barry, I just remember his name because it's just magnificent. I mean, everything, the lines were all so clear. I mean, it just looked like a photographer's film more than a filmmaker's film. Every curved line was there, every straight line was there, everything matched everything so well. Considering it's a rural film, it looked very technical from a filmmaker's perspective, I thought.
Mm-hmm. It was very immersive. I felt very much in their world, and I think just the nice slow cinematography, the nice music, and the nice images really added to all that. So it was nice and nuanced. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was beautiful, and what I loved as well is the emotional arc. That by the time you get to the final shot that was in slow-mo when they hugged as they were driving away, you really felt the sort of transformative, the sort of transformation they'd gone through the journey of sort of having to kill the bunny and sort of having this big open discussion that they maybe hadn't had for a while or at all. And when I watched it, when I got to the end, it made me reflect on sort of transformative nights I'd had with my brothers, and things we'd gone through where we'd gotten closer, or when something had happened, and when you go home that evening you feel like you've bonded in a new way. It really had such an emotional depth. It was really lovely to watch.
Yeah.
Does anyone else think, is it just me? I personally, the one thing I was thinking was when she offers to let the younger sister drive, I would have ended it there, just from a storytelling point of view, because everything had been done and said by that point. Now, I love the bookend of the farm, but I just thought myself that it would have been a kind of a nice cheeky, because it was the kind of style where we were getting all the separate stories from just a throwaway line here and there. So I thought that would have been a way to do that too, to show us that we did have the resolution there. Or it's just me.
I think both those films, both First Kiss or First Fear and 4x4, they're good examples of the economy of short films and two actors and using what setting you have around you, whether it be like you're a student and you have student friends, because that First Fear film was like that, or like you live near a farm and you have farmer kind of neighbors. I think it's really good example of how you can use what's right next to you and make a film with that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I also loved how they used a day, you know, they from morning till evening. It was a beautiful kind of way of combining everything as well. It's just quite masterful on many levels, I think. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we can move on to the next film, which was a documentary, the 7 feet 9¼ inches, about the young darts player, Katie Sheldon. Peter O'Brien directed. I thought, yeah, it was really, really fun to watch as well, that one.
I think that was probably my favorite, actually. I just loved it. I just thought Katie was such a character. But I thought it was so well shot. I mean, all the dart throwing in unison at the beginning, arm throwing dart, it's just beautifully done. I struggled from a technical point of view with the letterbox format. It felt like I wanted to see a bit more of people's heads walking by and stuff like that. And I wondered, maybe was there a cut in it, just from a kind of a filmmaker's perspective. But I mean, having said that, it was still my favorite. I thought overall, I mean, it was just beautifully put together. I mean, it was 15 minutes. It felt like a nice hour, well-paced documentary. You got to know them so well in such a short time, and so many characters, and how she integrated herself into the guys. And I mean, you still had all the themes. You had sexism, you had loss, friendship, all of it was there in a very, very short time. I just thought it was beautifully done.
I think it was a really good example of how we tend to associate documentaries with a certain kind of almost, educational style or a slower style or observational style, whereas that was very much cinematic, and it really went for that kind of sports movie kind of neon kind of style, and it kind of just shows the opportunities you can do with that format. It doesn't have to just be something very slow and simple.
Yeah, she was a great character too, wasn't she? Quite quick-witted and dry-witted and everything. Right? That's really adds to it. I suppose with it in terms of females in sport as well, Fallon Sherrock, who would have been the big darts player last year. I'm not sure if any of you are aware of it, but Fallon Sherrock was the in the World Darts Championship. She got to the quarterfinals, I think, which is the first time it's ever happened. So it's kind of a fitting time as well to have the Irish dart scene kind of promoted as well. So it's all working in unison.
Yeah, I mean, considering that Irish darts has been a thing for many years, and I mean, every pub in the country has a decent, if not really good, darts team. For us not to have a good Irish team, it was lovely to see something like that.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Like every year you're shouting for some guy to get to pass the third round, so it'll make that Christmas a little bit more exciting. Hopefully, looking at that documentary, future might be bright.
Yeah, she's done well as well. I mean, on the kind of the post credits, saying that she's won loads since, and she's been picked up by a big sponsor. So I mean, her future is definitely looking bright.
Oh, that's great. That's brilliant.
Yeah, they did a really nice job of, even though they didn't beat was it Holland?
Yeah.
They didn't beat them. They gave you that bit at the end, so you still felt very optimistic.
And like Coach Carter. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it felt a little bit like it could be, if they expanded it, it felt like a Netflix documentary, like sort of like The Last Dance style. I don't know if any of you watched that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I love the use of music was just so good and really pulled me in. I don't know much about darts, so but it dropped you in and you were just immediately engaged. You immediately cared about her. But yeah, the emotional thing of telling us at the end, actually, she won all of this afterwards. You still felt really good for her, even though the thing that we were watching, you know, she'd sort of gotten a bit nervous.
Mm.
But no, it was really, really fun, that one.
I think it was almost good in it, well, not good, but nicer that that they didn't win. You know, it was kind of somehow it was just nice to see how humble she was as well. But yeah, I'm not competitive, so I'm always rooting for the person that's on the losing team. You know?
It does have that Coach Carter feeling, though. I do remember when I was in college and I had seen the movie Coach Carter a couple of times with Samuel L. Jackson. And my friend was watching it with me, and the whole way through he was like, "Geez, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant. I love these sports movies." And when they lost, and in the end, he was like, "Oh, it's not over, is it?" I said, "Yeah, that's what happened." Like, he was absolutely.
You're showing your age now,
heartbroken.
or maybe I'm showing mine. For me, it was the Rocky 1 for me when he loses at the end. That's where I was with it. The same, yeah.
Yeah, you can't believe it. Like, this isn't film. They're supposed to win.
I'm currently based in the inner city, Dublin inner city, and I'm not sure where that film was based, which part of Dublin, but I get a bit of a sense of the Katie Taylor, Conor McGregor type vibe from it as well. And I sense here in this place where I'm based at the moment that the sport is so important. It can have such a positive impact socioeconomically. Just, you know, it was kind of representative of something bigger for me as well, that film, particularly because of where I am at the moment. So it was kind of an interesting insight. Yeah. Okay, so what was the next film?
Wake.
The Fear, I think, was the horror, as far as the short horror about basically the monster, the personification of fear and dread and our own insecurities, psychology really. It was beautifully shot again, technically brilliant, well acted. I wasn't too gone on the mask, but Cian, did you like the mask? You like that sort of thing?
I knew you'd come straight to me on this. I did. I mean, look, it's Damien Leone is a low budget director, and he made a movie a couple of years ago called All Hallows Eve, and it got picked up, and it got a sequel called Returner, and I thought it was very, very similar in style to that. It's a clown, kind of a dirty clown phase. I mean, obviously the metaphor for fear is brilliant. My biggest struggle was actually the accent, because you're so used to having a kind of a demonic personification that always has a kind of a low voice and a, you know, stilted tones. So to have an accent, I kind of found jarring. But then when you kind of sit back and realize, well, it's our own fear, and that's how people spoke in that area, so that's, you know, it's justified then. But I mean, I did like the mask. I did like the idea of fear, and I thought that the actor, I thought, absolutely nailed it. I mean, I know it's tough to make a film like that when it is about a metaphor. It can kind of get old very quickly, but I just thought it didn't at all. I mean, the pace was there all the time, you know, and then we had our conflict resolution, which was beautifully done. No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, very simple and very effective. I think
yeah.
I said everything there in a nutshell, really. Yeah, everybody's nodding, so. Yeah, so we can move on to the next one, which was the comedy tragedy, the wake. Yeah, it felt a bit sitcom-y to me, that one.
Oh, I loved it. The acting was incredible from such young actors as well. That's like, the bar was so high because you didn't have to just act well, you then had to act that you were acting, and like that is a big challenge. And I thought that all of the actors, obviously including the adults, but the children, they were just so good.
Yeah, the youngest guy really surprised me. I didn't.
Yeah, he was a very cute young fella now, like.
Yeah, he was adorable.
He was cast well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really transported me to the wake. You know, we've all gone through that kind of that process. Everybody knows how it feels, and it felt really immersive to me. I was just there.
Sorry, I was just going to say my absolute favorite thing I've seen this year of any film I've seen was the hearse when the camera pans and it's to the back of the tractor. I just thought it was inspired.
That's great. That was brilliant.
Funny.
Yeah.
And the shot that followed that.
Norma, sorry, guys.
I was just going to say, and the shot that followed that when they drove off and we were going through the countryside and they had the lovely music up until they got to the church. I love that, the whole journey with the tractor. It was really nice. Go on, sorry.
No, sorry, no. It's Norma Sheehan was the mother in the scene. She's a very popular comic actress, and she's totally physical, like in anything she's in. She's in Bridget and Eamon. She's in she was in the clinic for a while actually, but her physicality is always so strong, and like she wouldn't have to say anything at all. She has the perfect kind of you know, the way an Irish mother will give you that look if you took an extra drop of 7-Up at the dinner table when the cousins were around. That kind of you're in trouble now and shortly, but she's perfect for that. But I love covering the way that they cover a topic of the week, like, because it's good to do comic versions of the kind of, I suppose, the darker things that happen in Irish society. Like, I think they covered it very, very well.
I'd watch Norma Sheehan painting a wall. She's just so talented. She's unbelievable.
She's brilliant. Yeah. She's excellent.
What I thought stood out as well was the colouring in the film. When you had kind of the orange in the sitting room, you had that kind of, it's like the night of the wake is always that candlelit orange colour. And then when they got outside, it was all kind of blue. The clothes were black, but there were kind of blue sheens off them. I thought the colouring was beautiful. They had a lovely kind of Wes Anderson thing going on as well, the church. All that kind of symmetry and stuff. I thought it was beautifully done. For a little Irish comedy about a wake, which you could have done on a stage, but the cinematography was just exquisite. I love the drone over everything, but it wasn't moving, because drones tend to get overused these days now because we have the ability to shoot from the air. So to have the drone static and have the stuff moving, I thought was a lovely little change up, actually.
Yeah, it was great. Perfect.
Yeah,
it's good to see you using comedy as well.
It's funny but not funny. Yeah, the subject in a way. Yeah.
The dialogue and the characters' motivations are really clear as well, and that can be kind of hard when there's so many characters in a film. But I thought they did really, really well to balance the whole thing, and everything was so clear, and you knew what was going on all the time. And as we said before, the cinematography was brilliant.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agreed, definitely. But yeah, we're really going through them quite quickly now. The final film was the documentary about Between Lands, which was quite poignant for me because I have 2 Korean cousins, so I could really identify with the story, and it was directed by Laura Griffin, the actual girl in the documentary itself. So I thought that it was interesting as well that she lives in Ireland now. So kind of a lovely ending here. I thought it was really powerful, that documentary.
I thought the use of archive did a really great job of creating a personal connection with what was going on and with the families, and it really made the whole thing feel a lot more personal and kind of feel like you were stumbling on something. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
Intimate and very honest as well. Very kind of completely honest. And I thought she looked a little bit Irish as well. At you could tell she was, I think, living in Galway. Obviously.
When I saw the Munster rugby jersey pop out, because I really was not expecting to see a Munster rugby jersey, I was just like, whoa, we're in a different planet here. We're in Ireland.
The subject of the adoption was emotionally quite, serious topic, and she never found her original birth mother, or her birth mother, should I say. In the case of my own family, they actually they did manage to locate their birth parent, but it's quite a trauma, obviously, something like that, I think perhaps that the film may have helped her in a sort of a healing process. I assume. That's
there's a definite sense of that, even with them, just the way it moves along in terms of the actual journey from start to finish, and that's kind of almost feels like it links in with that kind of process of maybe healing and feeling better, and then making a big narrative piece to kind of support that. And to backtrack again, unrelated, but in terms of you mentioned the archive footage, I think stuff like that just like helps like a hell of a lot with anything like that, just to really bring you in. I mean, a documentary I saw, very different kind of documentary earlier this year, called Valley of Last Resort, which was really good, but that made, like, I'd say 90% use of like found footage from back in the day, and that made it all the better. So I know I like that kind of thing.
It can be very powerful. It can definitely be very powerful.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's a direct
it's a nostalgia
connection to,
thing.
yeah, it's a direct connection to the past. I mean, we get to see her as she was developing, and you don't get to see that very often, especially in a little short film like this, you know. I mean, I found it a very tough watch, I have to say. The whole kind of idea of cultural identity and having her identity almost stripped away because of circumstance that was beyond her control. But to kind of that idea of almost being forced to another country, I've always been kind of a bit apprehensive when I hear, Angelina Jolie adopting loads of kids in Africa and stuff like that. So I kind of found it very, very difficult to watch, to be honest. I thought it was lovely that, the Irish bit at the end, I didn't see that coming at all.
me neither. Yeah.
Especially as the guy was quite dark. The fact that guy was dark and didn't look Irish, we didn't expect kind of to be end up in Galway. It was lovely, but I mean, but it just felt like she was being torn away from her culture, and when she went back to her culture, she was so far removed from it by that point she couldn't connect with it anymore. And I just found that so hard, so hard to watch, so sad,
But it was a really
I think
interesting
on the flip side,
perspective.
it makes sorry.
Go on,
Go
sorry,
ahead.
Oisín.
No, it just on the flip side of that, it could make a nice point as to not get too hung up on nationality or borders. So that could be a nicer side to it.
Well, more culture than nationality, but yeah.
Yeah, I suppose identity, it's a tough one, but I'm Belgian, live in Ireland, and I'm the same, I'm also kind of between. I don't really know where I belong exactly, but yeah.
I did like the poem at the end, my feet touch Buddha's earth.
Yeah, it was lovely, yeah.
Grow on Christian ground. I like that it did kind of feel like there was a resolution of some description, because she did have the feeling of both. The poem is beautiful. I don't know who wrote it, but it's just a lovely little, I mean, it's like it was written for her. She didn't write it herself.
But at the same time, she didn't make too harsh a sort of judgment on either. When she was interviewing her family, it was very unbiased, and in some points it was quite difficult. What they were saying was really difficult. When the mum said, I didn't think it was important to teach you about your culture, or however she put it, it felt like, whoa, that's quite harsh. And she kept that in, and it kind of, and when the brother said, yeah, all my friends were white, there was nobody else around, and he kind of, it just felt like there were some things that were kept in which deliberately left questions open and unanswered, which I really liked about it.
Yeah, and that fact, he also said, I don't remember anything of you as a child. I don't remember anything. No, nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah, and they kept it there. Yeah, that was quite harsh.
I know, yeah. It seems to be the kind of, maybe that definitely shows the kind of sense of humor of family too, that they're kind of, I'd say there's kind of a harsh kind of, as they say in Ireland, maybe a cutting style of humor, because they were just so upfront.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the end of the day, I mean, I did find it difficult to watch, and I didn't agree with everything I saw, but there was definitely an honesty. Nobody held anything back, and she kept it all in, like you say, and that was really interesting to see.
Yeah, it was a beautiful selection of films, and Eve is here. I don't know if if she would like to add anything, or you're welcome to, Eve, if you like. You know probably more about these films and their history and their directors, obviously, than any of us. And I hope that as many young people in Kerry and even in Ireland, it was open nationally, that they have had the opportunity to watch them. So, and I'd like to thank you all for taking the time as well to watch them. I'd like to kind of, if there's anybody that would like to ask something or contribute something, or even, it doesn't have to be related to the films. If you have a question about filmmaking or something that you'd like to know, just feel free. You can also ask in the chat if you like. I know it's it's difficult on Zoom. It would have been nice to meet in person, but we're still stuck in the virtual for the time being.
I mean, I guess the point I could make is just having, especially to any young people looking to study film or go into it. Not that I've gotten very far, but I've just come out of it, the early process of it, so it's fresh in my head. But like the restrictions of the past, I put my last year of college at basically the 2021 period through all the lockdowns was actually a massive help in terms of my sorry, my filmmaking, just because where I would normally be in the college with classmates using their equipment, it was it was a kind of you're at home, kind of we can't obviously meet up in a film group, so go out and shoot what you can with your phone, kind of thing. And I was lucky to have one or two friends with a semi-decent camera, and sort of basically had to plan everything myself instead of doing it through a classroom, which ended up being very beneficial. So, you know, it doesn't really matter what you have. If you got an idea, just kind of try it out, because you don't need a college or a warehouse full of supplies to do it sometimes, at least when you're starting off.
And just use what's around you, you know, like just like with a lot of these films, they used what's around them, what was available to them. And, you know, write a list down of what do you have that's unique to you compared to other people, if you live on a farm or if you live in a city, you know what I mean? And the ideas can come from there.
I'd say the same, especially about writing. If you get an idea in your head, just write it down. Carry a notebook. Write it on your phone. Any ideas that come into your mind at all, get them down. I mean, if you're not going to write and you want to make or collaborate with somebody, keep your ideas close, and that you can share them with them, and they can do something with them. But always
definitely use your area of friends. Like, I mean, for the first short film I made last year, I only got the idea for it because I went out taking photos one day, like 2 minutes from my house in an old farmhouse, which was the entire set of the first short film, which ended up working really well because we got it done quick.
Excellent. I think just from a perspective from an acting perspective, I suppose it's tricky, because when you have a skill like filmmaking, it's physical. You know, you have to learning to use the camera, the sound, the equipment, the editing, and everything. But with acting, it's incredibly frustrating. It's a very frustrating line of work. So what I would say to any young person is that if they have an interest in it, or just like, oh, I'd love to try it, then like fully go for it. Like don't dip your toe in and out or whatever. I would say fully find the course. Where's the nearest course that I could try out for a weekend or a workshop? Where's the nearest college that does this? Even if it was after Leaving Cert, try out a PLC. That's what I did. I did a post Leaving Cert course in acting, and they're so much better than the degree courses, because they take attendance. You have to do it. If you don't do it, if you're not attending, you're not allowed in the course, because there's so many wanting to do it, and it's to have to pack everything into 8 months. So it really gives you a crash course of acting. So I would say anyone who wants to be an actor or anything to do with comedy, even, fully go for it. And as the guy said, you don't need a red cam or a massive DSLR anymore. You can just do it on your phone. So whatever you have, use it and go for it, you know.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I agree with all of that as well. And I'd say I know a lot of people who, at the beginning of their career, they have a lot of ideas, and you can get really stuck sometimes with, oh, but I don't have this in place, or I don't have this, or I need this much money, or I need this kind of light. And a lot of the time, all that does is mean you don't make anything. So
Yeah.
grab what you have, definitely. And even if you make something that has some technical issues, or that doesn't, you know, you're not making it to give to anybody, you're just making it for yourself, you'll learn so much just by doing. And acting can be frustrating, but I think if you take control of it, sometimes if you just make your own work and you write and you shoot things, then, you know, you take the control back, and you're learning while you're doing those things from every perspective. So yeah, I agree with everything you've all just said, which is just do it, just go do it.
Yeah.
I'm of the same, yeah, persuasion, or, you know, I'm an artist. I don't work in film in the way that like Cian would or you guys would, but I also have had to be very, very resourceful. And it kind of comes with often living in a rural location, I think, as well. And you're being isolated. Yeah, so just go out and do it, really.
And also, I know that there's something else. It's like remembering that everybody else in the industry is just a human being like you are. I think when you're trying to break in, sometimes you feel like these people are far away, and I can't get in touch with them, or I can't send their agent a script or something. That's just not true. Everybody's just a human being, and if you write a good enough script, you can send that to any actor. Or, you know, if you've seen a director's work and you love it, and they're an indie film director, and you just want to contact them and say, I love this, you can do that. That's right there for the taking. And then you make these friendships and these connections that you can learn from and that you can work in. Yeah.
And
That's a great point, actually. Sorry, Cian.
No, you go first.
No, that's a great point that Kerry made, that I would have been of that perception the whole time. I was like, oh, sure, I'm.
Oh, I thought it was me.
We're on a
The star of Frozen 3.
Only from the country. I'm not. Sorry, guys.
We got
Particularly.
you back.
Am I back?
Yep.
Sorry, yeah. So particularly with stand-up comedy, you'd meet the Father Ted guys, and you'd like, oh, I'd love for you to do a gig down here, and they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. They're like, was it that easy? And that's how easy it can be, And you made that's a good point you made there, Kerry.
And it can be fun as well. It's supposed to be fun, even if you make a bad film. That's still a lot of fun. Do you know what I mean? You get to laugh at it. You're hanging out with your friends. It's all, you know what I mean? There's so many positives to it, and the main thing is just creating something and making the most of it and enjoying it.
Yeah. Guys, unfortunately, I have to head off. Sorry about that, but thanks very much for having me.
Thanks for joining, Bernard, and good luck.
No bother at all. All the best to you guys.
Take care.
So that's quite a nice conclusion, I think. Well, we don't need to stay on until the 3 o'clock mark, unless there are any questions, but I don't think there are.
Hey, hi Mieke, it's Eve here.
Oh,
How are you doing? Sorry, my camera's not great. My Wi-Fi is actually not great. Just want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us. It's just been I've been tweeting all your little reviews, so they're out there now, and your advice as well. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It really was so enlightening, and there was things like I watch movies all day, every day, and there were still things I didn't pick up that you guys did. So it's just so lovely to be able to share them with you and hear such lovely things. So thank you all for your time.
Thanks, Eve. It was a really nice selection, and easy to watch and enjoyable. So I don't know whether any of my crew here from Kenmare are going to say anything. They're all quiet now. They're normally all chat. So no, they're all shy today. So yeah, okay. Well, I think that this was great. Thanks so much. And I hope that the Kerry Film Forum members will be able to have a proper meeting in person at some time very soon. Great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. This
Thank
has been
you.
lovely.
And I'll,
Thanks a million, Mieke.
okay. Take care.
Take care.
Long before.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.